If you're looking for the answers, I still don't have them. But what I do have is a particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people who mislead, misinform, or misrepresent the sports card industry. So if you don't do that, I'll let it go. But if you do, I'm going to talk about you. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Sports Card Investigator. My name is Andy. I am the aforementioned Sports Card Investigator, and I'm happy to be with you guys today. So I wanted to talk to you about a few subjects, and later on I'm going to show you some cards that I think you might find interesting. But first I want to talk to you guys about something that I've been thinking about over the last really few months in the ever-changing landscape of the sports card industry, our hobby. Any word you want to describe it. And it really doesn't matter what's going on. Any word that I use, people will disagree with. Some people love to disagree with me, and I think that's fine. But we can call it a crash, or a not a crash, or collapse, or softening, or adjusting, whatever it is, correction, whatever it is. It's any word you want to describe it. And I've watched, as I do, a lot of the content creators, or they give their opinions, what they think is happening in the industry. All the key masters and gatekeepers of the hobby, all their views on what's going on, and different takes by different people. Some are really good. Some I agree with, some I don't. Some have their best interest at heart, and it's brought to the forefront, which I get. I mean, some people do have skin in the game, and the popularity or continued growth of our hobby serves a purpose for them. And that's cool, that's great. That doesn't affect how I do business. A few months ago, I got contacted by Kent Bobb. He's a writer for the Washington Post. He was doing some research on a story he was doing, which already came out, on the sports card industry. It was about Sasha T. Basically, it followed him around, showing him what kind of deals he was doing, what his mindset was. Things of that nature. It was good. It was good. It was from an outsider's view of the hobby, so it gave a very different perspective from what most of us are used to. And I talked to Kent for a while. He just wanted to ask me a bunch of questions on what I thought, and it was interesting because it made me take a deeper look and reflect on the hobby, where the hobby was BC. Before COVID, where we're at the present time, where we're going, where we think we're going, where we're heading. No one really knows, right? Lots to reflect on for sure. And as I say in the beginning of all my episodes, I do not have all the answers, nor do I ever say that I do. But one thing that I do know is that it's changing. And I think we all can agree that the sports card hobby, the sports card industry, as we know it, the game has changed. And that's okay. That's okay. There's no need to panic out there. Even with all the uncertainty going on, there's always been light at the end of the hobby tunnel. Unless, of course, that some of us, and I hope it's not you, have taken unwarranted risk or irresponsible chances. Then that light at the end of the tunnel, unfortunately, could become an oncoming train, and that's not the case I would want for any of us in the hobby. I want everyone to be protected and to be safe. I've seen videos come out in the last few months about guys that have got overextended and how the hobby almost ruined them, and it's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. We're all in this to enjoy it, you know? That's a whole other story, how the hobby has become, and sometimes it gets pretty disheartening, but for the most part, it's something that we love to do, and we should keep it that way. So one of the things that I thought about was something that I do not think is discussed enough in the thing that we love, our hobby, and that is risk versus reward. Is that what gets us into trouble, right? If you think about it, the entire hobby is risk and reward. It's a simple premise, right? If the risk outweighs the reward, then logic says we should not move forward. Avoid a risk not worth taking. That's easier said than done. I get it. And unfortunately, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too, we turn a blind eye to risk and we just dive right in. We are drawn to the belief that even though the risk is great, that somehow the reward is worth taking, even though most of the time that reward, unfortunately, is seldom achieved. It's what I say sometimes. It's one of the analogies, or I don't know if it's an analogy or what it would, but it's like we jump into the pool before we check to see the depth or if there's any water in it to begin with. To me, it's all about risk tolerance. And before we take the risk, do we realize the cost? This hobby is all about risks and tolerance, right? Do we enter that break? Do we pay our $85 for a team? Do we send a card in for grading, even though we know deep down it's probably not going to gem? We buy a card on eBay and we could see that the centering is off, but what the hell, we want that card. We listen and do what other content providers say. Go out there, search for those 2.5-year-old Lucas Silver raw cards, because if they come back a gem, you're going to 7 times your money. We buy a repack. We enter a Raz, or we buy a box of wax. So I was thinking about this, and I would love for you guys to comment below. Here's the tricky part, I think, in our hobby. On all those things I just mentioned, are we taking risks or are we taking chances? I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing when I was doing research for this episode. What's the difference? And I get it, but I think there is a difference. When we take a chance, we don't know the outcome. We go to a casino and we put that quarter in the slot machine. Games of chance, right? But when I think of risk, I think with risk you have the chance to weigh the entire scenario. You can prepare. You can see worst case scenario, even though you know when you put that quarter in the slot machine, what's the worst case scenario? I lose the quarter. But when we take a risk on cards, in certain aspects, preparation comes into play. And if it doesn't make, and I say it all the time, fiscal sense, then we don't move forward. Now, some things in our hobby, right? Repacks, Razes, buying a box of wax, we're taking chances, right? And I think there's a difference between chances, risks, maybe calculated risks. So I think we all have to think about the entire set of circumstances before we put our money in the game. It's just something to think about. Again, it's just one of those rabbit holes I dove into. So whatever your strategy is in this hobby, in our industry going forward, when it's possible, calculate and mitigate your exposure to risk. And I know in this game, we cannot be totally risk averse. I'm not. And that's where it gets tricky. But if it gets to a point where the risk outweighs the reward, we have to reevaluate all of the circumstances involved, and we just can't move forward. If we do, then that's where we're going to get into trouble. You guys know, who've watched my show, I love movies, especially the older movies, and Clint Eastwood is one of my favorite actors, and he did the whole Dirty Harry series, and I think it's Magnum Force, where it's one of the end scenes, or he kind of says it. It's one of those catchphrases where, in Dirty Harry was, "Do you feel lucky, punk? Did I fire 5 or 6?" He goes into that hole. It's a classic thing. But in this one, which I thought of when I was thinking about risk and reward. He basically tells the bad guy towards the end of the movie, after something happens, he says it to himself. He says, a man's got to know his limitations. And we just do. If we don't care and we just throw caution to the wind, then that's where we get in trouble, especially in this hobby. And I don't want to see that. So, okay, enough of the heavy stuff. Okay, so Winston is up and fixed, so everything is right in the world. So I figured let's have a little bit of fun. Show you guys a few cards that I picked up about a year and a half ago. Got them graded with one exception. And this will be a video. Would this be cards that I bought video? I don't know. Well, I guess it is. Well, anyway, good clickbait title. Anyway, at the time I picked up these cards, very, very low risk, almost no risk at all. They were all purchased at a very low price, between $5 and $20. That's another thing I'll bring up really quick, is in watching a lot of the content creators, the cards that they recommend sometimes, although they could be great cards depending, really expensive. And you don't really have to break the bank to get cards if it meets your criteria. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, between my mindset when I was buying these cards. But it's all about selection criteria. And after I purchased these cards, all but one I had graded for, I think I did them on a $20 economy grade level. I think one was maybe a $9 bulk. And again, those days are over. Economy and bulk are no longer available. So that's another risk assessment we're going to have to make going forward on the cards that we buy and the cards that we grade. And with that said, in a weird way, because we can't do that anymore, these cards that I'm going to show you, I think have a relatively decent chance to stay at a low population. But again, time is going to tell. And the criteria that I used for these cards was pretty simple. It was basically the projection of a low population of the card, and the projected scarcity, maybe, right? And if the player has the potential to be relevant in the next few years, if you're going to buy them and flip them, or have a good and great career and then just hold on to them and see what happens. My friend Markleberry on IG, he's really funny. He did a meme when I was looking, reminding me about it. It kind of rings a little bit to this. Is sometimes cards are a low pop because there's crap no one wanted to grade. And he's right. And that's very true. And that's an important factor when we're looking at cards to grade. All right, so let's get started. Enough of this. First card is a 2019 Panini Chronicles Zion Williamson Bronze Luminance. The base of this card has a population of 1,100. So it will be probably going up. I like this card because it met my criteria. A player that I like, a player that I believe in, and the population of this parallel of this card is 11. So it's got a chance. It's got a chance to continue on that low trajectory of population. By the way, I wanted to bring this up to you guys. If you haven't yet, download the PSA app on your phone, and I'll show a screenshot of it. And I think I'll do a quick little video to show you if you guys haven't. Again, you guys have been here around for a while. You know about this stuff. This is for like the newer guys. So basically, what you do is you take the card and you can scan the barcode in the back. And boom, there it is. And then you will see it come up with all the information on the card. And again, I'll show this to you in a better way. But it'll show you the population of the card, which is 11 as of this taping. So again, meets my criteria. Another card, not graded yet, but it meets my criteria. Again, it's a Zion Williamson Chronicles Luminance Red. I bought a lot of Zion Williamson cards and a lot of Zion Luminance, and this was included. I think I paid $100 for 6 or 7 cards. This population will never go above 149. because it's numbered. This card is numbered to 149. Really cool, very inexpensive comparatively. A Zion Williamson numbered to 149. I know it's Chronicles. Some man's garbage is another guy's gold. I get it. But the possibility of this card having a high population is never going to be reached because it can only go to 149. In the way that PSA goes, we're probably looking at 70 or 80 at the most. Staying on the Chronicles bandwagon, Zion Williamson Chronicles Recon Bronze. Again, the card's okay. Not my favorite card, but it fits my criteria. Good player. The population on a PSA, just in PSA, is 438. The population of this card, the bronze parallel, is 42. Relatively low. I'm sure it's going to change dramatically. By the way, reminds me, check out Bench Clear Media, Ty, and also Retro Hoop Collectibles. They kind of give a running count of all the cards that are being processed through PSA and gives you a great idea of what we can expect going forward as far as cards coming back. So definitely check them out. Very, very helpful information. The next card, Ja Morant Chronicles. I know they make this in a pink, they make bronze, they make blue. There's 364 in the pop count for this on the base card. For this specific bronze, we're looking at 13. They make a blue, as I said before. Last time I looked, there was a pop of 4. They make a pink. So anyway, low population. Ja Morant, a player that I really believe in, meets the criteria. Very, very low risk. These cards I was probably getting, $3 or $4. Even if you got this card and were able to grade it at $9 or even $20, and it got a PSA 10, they're going for about $80. The PSA 9, about $36 as a base. So very, very low risk at the time with a great return. Some bonus cards. One of my favorite guys, Trae Young. It's a Trae Young Select Premier level. I was picking these cards up for like $10-20 back in the day, and then getting them graded for, I think this was a $9 grade. They're going for about $200 now. The population for this card is 378. When you compare it to his PSA Prism cards, population is approaching 10,000. So 378 to 10,000. I'm pretty certain that I don't think this card will ever get close to 10,000. Will it be as desirable as this Prism card? Time will tell. I used to like Select. I still like Select. The problem with Select is back then you were looking at a card that was hobby only, and now it's retail and it's flooding into the market. So I got to believe that the pop counts going forward for those cards are going to be higher. Okay. Another card. This card is a bit of a risk. My good friend Rashad Phillips was on the show. He spoke very highly of this young man, Anthony Simons. The jury is still out if he'll reach his full potential, how his career will go. But because he mentioned that, Rashad mentioned it, I went and I picked up a few of his cards. When I was looking, I wanted to get his cards that were not as popular or didn't have the big pop counts. His Silver Prism card has a pop count now of 1,004, and it's going for about $120, which still in the grand scheme of things is not that crazy. But when I was looking at something a little bit more scarce, this came up, and it's a Silver Select Prism, and when I bought it, I made an offer on it. I got it for like $85. The pop on this was 4. It's now up to 11. So I'm willing to take a risk that if he does well in his career, this is a good investment because the population of this card should stay relatively low compared to his other more popular cards. And you can find these type of buys or these type of scarcity in lower price cards everywhere. It just depends on where you look. Here's one that I ripped and had graded. And this may fall into the Markleberry or, who wants to buy crap that you're grading. But Court Kings, again, is another one that level 3, level 4 short prints. I ripped this PJ Washington Court Kings level 4, had it graded, came back at 10, and the population on this card is 2. So again, will he reach his potential? Has he reached his potential? Will he continue to grow as a player? Time is going to tell. So that's it. But if you guys have any other cards that you like that are a little bit under the radar, that maybe have a chance to have a low scarcity or a low population of a good player, let me know about it. Always looking for those type of cards. I think those under the radar cards are really way to go, and often are not spoken about. So that's it, a little bit into my mindset. So if you like what you see, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you don't like what you see, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, and until next time, take care.